John 11:56. Quaerebant ergo Iesum, et conloquebantur ad invicem. In templo stantes, quid putatis, quia non veniat ad diem festum? Therefore they were searching for Jesus, and were talking amongst themselves, standing in the temple. What do you think? Do you think that he won't come to the festival? Our verb quaerebant simply takes the accusative of Iesum to express searching for, while we in English tend to use the preposition for and then the object of searching. Latin just likes to use the accusative for this. And then we have conloquebantur ad invicem. They were talking back and forth with one another. This prepositional phrase, ad invicem, acting adverbially, is notably post-classical. Classically, the word invicem simply meant in turn or alternately, so they were speaking in turn with one another. Makes sense. But in the sense of mutuality, going back and forth with one another, that is somewhat a later development, especially when you have these prepositions being added on to the beginning. That is definitely a post-classical development. And if you spend much time in the Vulgate, you'll see this phrase, ad invicem, fairly frequently, but with different prepositions. But it still means more or less the same thing. In Erasmus's attempt to classicize the Vulgate, he uses this phrase instead, inter se, to render the underlying Greek. And I think it is an accurate representation of what the Greek says. Then we have this prepositional phrase, in templo stantes, a circumstantial participle, stantes, and then in templo, clarifying where they were standing. Then we have this pair of questions. Quid putatis? What do you think? Now, this second question is a little bit trickier, but just remember that quia is being used in place of quod here. And when you see that, it is a little bit easier to recognize that sitting between this question mark and the quia is a repetition of putatis. But it's been dropped because it is not necessary. You have it in the first question right here, quid putatis. Why repeat it? So, to a Latin speaker, it is kind of like, what do you think? Do you think he's not going to come to the festival? In English, we are far more likely to retain the repetition. But in Latin, it is no problem. They'll just drop the repetition. But quod is still introducing an indirect statement, which is why we have veniat still as the subjunctive.